When my daughter Drew was born, someone asked me what I hoped she'd inherit from me. I said, my drive to grow and the belief that I can. That belief carried me through a difficult childhood. It pushed me to pay my way through college, build a six-figure sales career, and work through my trauma to become a loving husband, foster parent, and community builder. That belief is the best thing I have to give her. But this podcast isn't about me. It's for her. Instead of telling her my story, I'm sharing the stories of remarkable women. Women who've overcome, who've built, who've healed, who've thrived. Each episode is an interview with a woman who inspires me, and who I hope will inspire Drew someday too. Because one day she'll be a young woman carving out her own life, and she might not want to hear advice from her dad. But when that day comes, I hope she listens to these voices and remembers that she can become whoever she wants to be, and she can overcome anything. They say it takes a village, so I'm building one. A village of women who are redefining what it means to be ladylike. This is Ladylike, the Girl Dad podcast. Welcome back to Ladylike. Today's episode, I was with Ashley Guerra. It was incredible. She has spent her life helping and sacrificing for others, for those that literally can't speak, like those who have strokes and Parkinson's. She helps them with physical therapy. And then also those who can't speak, like children with disabilities and foster kids. I think she's a great woman and someone that I'd be very happy for Drew to grow up into. So I'm really excited to share this episode with you. Some quick announcements. The merch store is launched on the website, www.ladylikepodcast.com. Drew and I collaborated to design everything. So that's about how it is. Also, I'm back in Austin, so if you are in the area and want to be on an episode, definitely go on the website and fill out the inquiry form to join and be on an episode. I'd love to chat with you about your story. I'm excited to share this episode with you guys. But for now, we're going to go right into the Dear Drew. Dear Drew, if you ever listen to this episode years from now, I want you to hear Ashley's story and know this. You don't have to be fearless to be brave. Ashley didn't plan to parent a child with Williams syndrome. She didn't plan to become a foster mom, but she said yes anyway, and her life is richer because of it. She shows us that sometimes the hardest paths are the ones that grow the most love. I hope you'll remember Lily. Remember how she waves at everyone no matter who they are. She doesn't sort people into important or unimportant. She doesn't overlook anyone. She teaches us that everyone is worth seeing. Drew, my prayer for you is that you'll carry both of those lessons. Say yes when God asks you to step into something hard, and never forget to see the people others ignore. Love, Dad. Welcome back to Ladylike. This is Anton. I'm joined today with Ashley Guerra. She is incredible, a beautiful foster mother and physical therapist doing amazing things in the world. I would be so proud of Drew to grow up into her, and so that is why she is here. Ashley, would love for you to introduce yourself. Tell me who you are, what you do, and what hats you wear in life right now.
Okay. Um, okay. Well, I am a physical therapist by trade. I'm a board certified neurospecialist. And so I have been taking care of neurologically affected patients for about 11 years now. About a year ago, I stepped back from that, and I've been working for a university to help them build a PT curriculum. And the benefit of that is I get to work from home, which allows me to have a lot of flexibility for my daughter. So yeah, I'm also a foster mom, currently open for placements. So yeah, I guess that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. So you said was it neuro something specialist?
Board certified neurospecialist. Yeah.
Okay, so neurospecialist doing with physical therapy. So you're talking about people that had degenerative, like muscular neuron function, or like what would that fall under?
Yeah. So the diagnoses that you'd probably think about that fall in there is like stroke,
Okay.
Parkinson's, MS, just general balance issues. But one of my specialty areas is working with patients who've had strokes. So that would I would say that's the majority of what my career has been. And then also Parkinson's is another big kind of love of mine, working with patients with Parkinson's. So
That's crazy.
yeah.
That seems like probably one of the harder things you can do. Anna's grandfather had a stroke a couple years ago, and he had to go to physical therapy,
Hmm.
relearn how to talk, relearn how to walk,
Yep.
relearn how to do everything. And it was extremely frustrating for him. And
Oh
I
yeah.
can't imagine how frustrating it would have been for the physical therapist because he wasn't a guy that is easygoing.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
Yeah,
uh,
I mean, that's definitely part of it is that you have to be super patient with people and you're seeing them at probably the worst time of their life, even if it's like an ongoing neurologic, degenerative disease like Parkinson's. It's like maybe they just got diagnosed or maybe they're in the middle of it and they're probably seeing you because they're having a lot of trouble and or they've been falling a lot. And it's just, I mean, it used to make me feel really sad in the beginning when I first started treating because I was like, there's so many sad stories. I can't believe like the lives that these people are leading and how much trouble they're having. And I feel like very quickly to me, once I saw a person, I immediately, when I had enough experience, I could see how much progress they were going to make and like where I saw them when they were done with therapy.
wow.
And so it was like, you quickly start to see the potential. And so I no longer had that feeling of like, this is so sad, which it still is sad. I mean, I don't want to like discount that part of it and what people are going through and their stories and all of that kind of stuff. But I just felt like, okay, I can help these people though. Like, it's not just like, there's nothing good that can come from this. Like we
Mhm.
can make you be able to move better and make you feel more confident and be able to go to your, you know, grandson's graduation and all that kind of stuff. So it's not as hard now and with like more experience, I feel like I could just see the good.
Mhm. With Parkinson's, we have a couple listeners to the podcast that actually have Parkinson's.
Mhm.
I know that it affects you physically, right? You get tremors,
Right.
but then there's also the component of, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but there's like brain function loss, right? Like you start to become maybe Alzheimer's or dementia type
Mhm.
situation. Is that something that you would have to deal with? Or like when a patient got to that point, did you not have to do physical therapy because maybe they're losing mental function? Hard question. I'm just
Yeah,
joking with
no,
you.
no, no, not at all. I mean, that's part of it. So, there's like different stages of Parkinson's. So there might be the earlier stage where we're working on like just trying to normalize as much as we can. In the later stages, we might be working more on family safety, on making sure that they don't fall, on, suggesting different like using an assistive device like a walker or something like that. And with Parkinson's, there is some loss of that brain function, cognition and all of that. But that tends to happen later on, except for
Okay,
some atypical types of Parkinson's. And so, for the most part, people are like very well functioning cognitively until they're in the much later
got
stages.
it.
Maybe a little bit slower in processing, but overall, I would say like some of the smartest people I've known have had Parkinson's,
Yeah,
like really intelligent people.
that's awesome.
So it's more just like helping their body keep up with their brains.
Yeah. And so with Parkinson's, is there any tips or tricks that you would add or tell someone as someone that's board certified and like neurology board certified physical therapist?
Yeah.
Um, what tips or tricks would you tell people that have Parkinson's that they should get into or try?
Yeah. So the really cool part about Parkinson's is that, there's a drug that obviously helps people stay moving better. And so that is going to always be something that people with Parkinson's will take. But the really cool part is that the research with Parkinson's has showed that exercise
Mm.
is the only other thing that helps prevent progression of the disease. And obviously there's some part of it that you cannot stop, right? It's like there are things that you're missing in the brain, there's degeneration, but exercise is the only thing that can help prevent
Wow.
it getting worse at least for a period of time. So that's why I tell people I'm like the physical therapy is absolutely key with
Mm.
Parkinson's. And so you have to keep up with exercise. So I have like a certification in a type that's really big amplitude, like big movement.
Hmm.
It's really intensive. And so people I think will tend to be like, oh, well, they have Parkinson's, they can't do a whole lot. And the research shows the more intensive exercise you do, the better you
Oh,
function.
really?
Yeah.
And I feel like with Parkinson's, it's fine motor movements that seem to be most affected. Maybe some of the bigger movements are not as affected, so they
Yeah.
could do that. Is
It's
that
both. Yeah. So there's like an issue in the brain with like calibrating movement.
okay?
So it affects the part of the brain that like helps you decide like, oh, how far do I need to reach to grab this cup, right? So what happens is they feel like they're moving normally, but they're actually moving too small.
Okay.
So all of the therapy is about retraining the thought process and the body to move much bigger than they think they need to
Oh,
so that they can make a correct size movement.
got it.
So that's the same with writing, it's with, buttoning your shorts, it's with walking because
Yeah.
you'll see people with those little tiny steps
Yeah.
and it's just all a calibration issue
Wow.
basically.
I did not know that. That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
And so you probably also worked with stroke victims who can't talk,
Mhm.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you have to do as far as being patient, but also listening? Like, how do you communicate with someone that physically can't? Do they
Yeah.
write? Like, what is it?
Sometimes, yeah,
Okay.
it depends on how they're affected by it. So, some people will have aphasia, which is what you're talking about, where they have difficulty being able to get out what they want to say.
Hmm.
So, that can look like no words, that can look like a few words where they're giving me a little bit of a hint and I'm trying to fill in the gaps. It can look like using the wrong words in place of what they're trying to think of. So there's, communication devices that can help, although I've seen mostly people get frustrated with those. Sometimes they can do writing. Other times it's like miming, it's just doing different things with their hands and trying to help you figure out what they need. Sometimes family members are there and they have a little bit better of an idea of what their family member is trying to say. But it is, I mean, it's a lot of a guessing game and just like being really patient with them because they get frustrated easily because they can't communicate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely, I mean, but even working with patients who have aphasia like that, it teaches you a lot of lessons in just in general, of like patience and kindness and humility and being able to like when someone's frustrated with you, like being able to dial it back and not let it be about you,
Yeah.
and just know that like they're going through a hard time.
100%. Do you ever miss being with patients now that you're writing curriculum? I'm sure that's really different. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Yeah. I miss it a lot. I mean, it's I mean, that's why I got into physical therapy, right? Was to like be with patients and to be able to work with them. And like, there's nothing like being able to help someone walk for the first time, which is like, can be a big thing, especially after having a stroke. And like helping them improve their lives and all that kind of stuff. Like, I loved that part of it. The part of it that I didn't love was the hours of paperwork that I came home with. So, I would like, I'm very hands-on because these like a lot of the patients I work with have a lot of needs physically. And even if they don't have needs physically, they need a lot of help, just like to make sure that they don't fall, right? So I would come home with hours of paperwork. And so, I would do my job that was like kind of physically demanding and mentally taxing, and then take care of my daughter, and then put her to bed, and then do paperwork, and then start it all over again. But I definitely hope that I can get back into patient care in some way eventually again, whenever maybe we don't need quite as much like flexibility. And I have no idea what is to come for me. But I definitely want to be back in patient care in some way.
Yeah.
I miss it.
You mentioned that you got into this because you wanted to help people. Tell me about what made you want to become a physical therapist in the first place. Like, that's an interesting career. I've heard people, in fact, when I was in high school, I feel like my career counselor was like, physical therapy,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
And I was like, I don't know if that's for me, but tell me about like the journey into deciding this is what you wanted to do and
Yeah.
the education. You went and got board certified.
Hmm.
I think that's beyond the normal certification for a physical therapist, to my
Yeah.
understanding. Tell me a little bit about all of that.
Yeah. So I, back probably in high school, like I've always loved working with kids. I like babysat since I was 11, which I don't know who lets an 11-year-old
That's
babysit
crazy.
like a 6-month old and like a 3-year-old, but
That's
I did at that time.
wow.
And so I had, I've been taking care of kids forever. And so I thought maybe I wanted to be like a pediatrician.
Hmm.
Um, and actually a family I babysat for said, "Hey, down the road, we have a neighbor and she's a pediatric physical therapist."
Wow.
And so they were like, "You should talk to her and just kind of hear what she has to say and, see if that would be something interesting." Because the dad of the family was a doctor, and they were like, just go talk to her. And so I ended up having an internship class in high school where you got to meet with someone, talk with them, interview them, and then like actually do an internship there.
Whoa.
And so I interviewed her and I was just fascinated by what she had to say. And so I did a year-long internship where I was at the pediatric PT clinic with her, and just like got to be in it and learning a lot, and I absolutely loved it like
Wow.
immediately. So I thought I was going to be a pediatric PT,
Right.
and then I got into school and I was like, I don't think that's actually for me. I started really liking the neurologic side of everything, and even I did a rotation in pediatrics too. um but I just really loved the neurologic patients and even the kiddos with like neurologic conditions too. So I ended up doing a couple internships in that and really liked it. And so once I got into working, I was in a hospital setting, working with like people who they're in, it's called inpatient rehab. And so it's right when they leave the hospital, once they're stable medically, they go there for rehab for
Cool.
like 2 weeks or so. And I was working with really complex patients, and I just started realizing how much I didn't know.
Mm.
And so started pursuing the stroke certification and the board certified neuro certification. And so that was a year worth of studying to like get through. It's lots of journal articles, it's, textbooks and, cases and all that kind of stuff. Just like learning everything basically about all of the neurologic conditions.
Mhm.
And then it's a 7-hour exam that you take. And so that was like, ooh, that was a lot. But anyways, I passed it. And so I became a neuro specialist, and then I added a few other like smaller specializations over time just so that I could learn again as much as I could. It was nothing to do with like the letters after my name or anything like that. I just kept coming across things I didn't know and I
Mm.
wanted to know the answer to them. And so that's kind of how I ended up getting all those certifications. And
Right.
yeah.
Do you know what I do for work?
I don't really know.
Yeah, I was
I
wondering
have no
because
yeah, I really
yeah,
don't.
I have a podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
That's the
No,
work.
no. No, I undergrad was psychology.
Okay.
Thought I wanted to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Okay.
Actually, undergrad was pre-med, and then I went to psychology because pre-med was not what I wanted to
Yeah.
do.
Mhm.
And then I was like, oh, psychology.
Yeah.
And then I graduated, and after when I graduated, I was like, maybe I don't want to keep going to school type
Mhm.
thing, just because like I had a tough time at the end there. And also my college experience was crazy. My sister got arrested when I was in college, so I moved back home and then was driving 3 hours to go to school
Oh
every
my
Tuesday,
gosh.
Thursday, Friday.
Wow.
It was insane. But what I do for work, I recruit doctors. I run a small staffing agency
Mhm.
where I hire doctors, and I only work in mental health. So I only work with
Okay.
psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, and that whole shebang.
Yeah.
So I find it very interesting because my job every day is to interview these people,
Mhm.
learn about their life, learn
Yeah.
about what got them to do what they do, and
Yeah.
help them find jobs. And all of them, probably 90% of them, have a very similar story to you, especially when it comes to getting additional certifications, doing more fellowships,
Mhm.
taking the boards, doing all of that, where they kept going and they're like, wait, I actually want to know about this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And it keeps going. So I just want to say it's shocking to me that the psychiatrists that I work with have a very similar motivation, background, and story that you do. That's pretty cool,
Yeah.
and I know I know about the board exams.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's not the same as like a medical doctor, but it is, I mean,
yeah,
I spent all of my time studying when I was not working
yeah,
for this exam.
yeah.
Like I mean, I remember being on an airplane and studying, and like I would take days off from work to study, like,
Yeah.
and that was it. So, but I mean, in the end, I learned so much, and I felt like I was such a better PT for it.
Mhm.
And that just, makes people trust you more too when they are like, oh, you actually know a lot about what I'm
Yeah.
going through.
And so obviously you transitioned into writing curriculum
Hmm.
and you do that now because it provides more flexibility for your schedule and your time with Lily and everything that
Hmm.
she has to do. Walk me through like maybe a week or a day of your life from writing curriculum to what it looks like for Lily in a given week. Because I actually have no clue,
Yeah.
not even a slight clue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, week to week, it looks different for sure.
Yeah.
But, she has therapy every Monday and Tuesday. And so, like tomorrow, for example, I'll go drop her off at therapy, talk to her therapist for a few minutes, give him an update, go work at a coffee shop nearby for the 3 hours she's in therapy, go pick her up, take her to school, and then go home and I might have some meetings or, I'll just be like looking at over a course or actually creating some curriculum. So I'm kind of like a project manager,
Yeah.
so I manage a bunch of courses and then I also do actually like write some curriculum too. So it's just like meetings at home or it's just working on the projects that I have.
Mm.
And then turning around and going to pick her up.
Yeah.
And then we also have, weekly appointments. Like we just had an appointment before I came here for her to get new braces. But she sees like probably 12 to 15 specialists.
Wow.
And so there's always the follow-up appointments for those.
So I actually was curious about that. Like what types of therapies, what types of specialists, if you don't mind, talk a little bit about Lily, her diagnosis, and what kind of things she has to do to keep up with it. Actually, before you do that, I was watching Love on the Spectrum,
Mhm.
and there was a person on the show that had the same,
Has Williams syndrome, yeah.
yeah, and I didn't realize that's like, well, that Lily and the person on the show, the two times I've ever experienced it.
Yeah,
So like this girl is awesome and so
yeah,
sweet and so kind, and her family is so great. But anyway, back to the original question. Tell me about Williams syndrome. Tell me about the therapies if you
yeah.
want to. You don't
Yeah,
have to.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a big advocate of educating about Williams syndrome.
Yeah.
And that's because I feel like so many, from what I've heard, is a lot of families have kiddos that just go undiagnosed for a long time,
Really?
especially if they're not like in a big city, basically, because it's rare. And so a lot of times doctors may have not seen it before.
Wow.
And just so that people are aware of the difficulties that other people face, right? So she has Williams syndrome. It's a partial deletion of chromosome 7.
Mm.
It happens spontaneously. So it's not like,
Whoa.
it's not inherited or anything. It's just a spontaneous thing that happens. And it deletes the part of that codes for the elastin gene. And that gene makes elastin, which is in every single tissue in our body. So in every organ, it's what makes your arteries pliable and like be able to expand and get smaller and all that kind of stuff. And so as a result, it can affect every single system of the body. It obviously affects like the way that her like ligaments and all that kind of stuff are formed. So that's why she sees so many specialists because it can affect like the kidneys, the GI system, the esophagus, I mean, the way the brain develops, all that kind of stuff. And so, the hallmark characteristic of kids with Williams syndrome is they're extremely friendly and
Yeah.
outgoing.
Yeah.
And they call it
That
like
makes sense.
the cocktail party personality or
Yeah.
whatever. And so to me, it is the craziest thing. Like, I still can't comprehend how a deletion on a chromosome can make someone friendly
That is very weird.
and outgoing.
Well, that's really
Isn't that so weird?
kind of like yeah, overwhelming to think about
Yeah.
the nature versus nurture situation,
Yeah.
like how much of genetics actually affect our personality.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's both,
Yeah.
right? Like it does kind of there are some like mind games that happen because
Yeah.
there is like a very similar profile, I guess you would say, about people with Williams syndrome. It's a spectrum, so there's a very big variety in how people with Williams syndrome present.
Got it.
So there can be like the more severe end of the spectrum and the more mild end of the spectrum. And the spectrum, I mean, I don't mean like, obviously
Yeah.
everyone thinks about autism when they think of a
Right.
spectrum, but there's just different things that can be affected. And usually, the way that kids get diagnosed is if a doctor recognizes the facial characteristics,
That's what I was gonna ask.
but more likely it's if they have a cardiac issue. So almost like a lot of kids with Williams syndrome will have two types of issues with their heart. And that's how Lily got diagnosed with it.
Really?
Hmm.
I was wondering because it's not something that, at least I didn't know. I literally had no idea that Lily had anything
Hmm.
until recently,
Yeah.
like on the beach trip that we went on, which is kind of
Really recently.
embarrassing. Yeah. I was like, maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And so I had no idea until someone mentioned something like that we have a certain amount of kids with special needs in the group. And I was
Mhm.
like, I mean, not that many, right? Like, and I was like, who? And so I didn't know if it was something that was easily identifiable, but you're saying that there's a facial feature and then the
Mhm.
heart, the cardiac system.
Yeah.
In particular with the cardiac system, is it just the expansion and contraction of muscles, including the heart and
It's
veins?
actually the arteries.
The arteries.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because again, you need that elastin to be elastic basically
Right.
to have the arteries be able to expand well. What happens is it gets narrow in certain areas because you don't have that flexibility in there. And so that narrowing is what causes a lot of issues. So she had some narrowing in a major artery above her heart. And that's pretty common.
Wow.
So there are quite a few kids that have to have open heart surgery
Wow.
who have Williams syndrome. Lily, thank God, has had very minor cardiac issues, and so she is doing okay with that regard.
Awesome.
So yeah.
And I heard recently, I also didn't know this. I've been a foster parent for, I don't know, 2 years now, certified foster
Yeah.
parent, but I've only had one placement
Yeah.
the whole time. But
This still is a long
it
time,
was a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a 10-month placement.
Yeah.
But um, I learned recently that if you adopt a kid as medical needs, they get medical needs taken care of for their life. Is that true for Lily or not true for Lily?
Yeah, so they get Medicaid
They get Medicaid.
until they turn 18.
18.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, yes, she has Medicaid
Okay.
because of that, which again, thank God, because
Yeah.
I don't know how any other parent does this having to pay their medical
I can't
bills.
imagine.
I mean, I would be so in debt if I had to pay for everything for her. I have no idea how I would make it work.
Mhm.
So she gets Medicaid until she turns 18. And then when she's 18, she'll have to get an evaluation to see whether or not she is disabled as an adult as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's the
So
process that any child or person goes through when they turn 18
got
with a
it.
disability.
That being the case, since I just recently learned about that medical benefit thing, I
Hmm.
also learned that at least with some of the kids I know, I don't want to name names, but they continue to receive stipends and hours of like babysitting hours, like paid for Medicaid pays for like babysitter hours or something like
They
that.
do if you have a medical, like if you have a disability and you also are like once you hit four is when you can
Okay.
qualify for that.
Okay.
So there are some things that they do to try to help, and it definitely helps, because having a child with disability is like very intensive,
Yeah,
everyone has had to modify their work and their life in some way.
totally.
So yeah, they have some of those little things that kind of help. And that way you can also have some childcare help. You can't always just have like any person provide childcare.
Mm.
And so it just kind of helps offset that a little bit.
I guess yeah, that would be really hard to find the right person. And then
Yeah.
also to compensate, they probably have some special background certification or interest to want to hang out with that kid,
Yeah.
whether, they'd be. And so another question I was thinking about, and I actually don't even think I asked Katie this, but I've been pondering on this. Why do you think the Pinterest Moms Friends group, shout out Pinterest Moms, why do you think that they all have such a big heart for kids with disability? Do you think that they have such a big heart for kids with disabilities, or do you think that it's just that's how it shook out? That there's so many of them within our group. I just don't. I'm curious
Yeah.
what your thoughts are, and maybe your personal feelings.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that it kind of started, I would say on the earlier side with Katie and Hallie because
Mhm.
they already had kids with disabilities, right? And, one of our friends, Rachel and Cortland,
Mhm.
they both grew up working at a camp for people with disabilities. And so they already had that like love and, want to help take care of kids with disabilities. I it's one of the ways like God works, right? So I remember I was with hanging out with Katie and I was in between placements and she was taking care of a baby who'd just had, major surgery and I was just helping her overnight and she said, "You would be like really great taking care of a child with medical needs."
Mm.
And I was like, "I think I could be a great advocate, but I just don't have time. My job's not set up for it. I just can't. Like I don't have the ability to do that." Um, and a few weeks later, I got a call about
Sad.
a little girl who had Williams syndrome, a baby. And I Googled Williams syndrome because I had no idea what it was. And I was like, yeah, sure, that seems fine. Like,
Mm.
no clue what it entailed at all. And so I said yes. And then I found myself in the world of being a disability mom.
Yeah.
And I had, again, no clue what I was stepping into. And I think God planned it that way, like he knew that he would provide what I needed to be able to take care of her. But I think if I had known what was coming, I probably would not have said yes.
Mm.
And now I could just see how, like, literally, I mean, day by day, like, God just gives us what we need to make it through.
Yeah.
So I feel like my heart for that came with my daughter,
Mm.
like with her being in my home and seeing, I mean, just how the world's not set up for her and how I always have to try to help her fit into the world versus like the world being ready to take her.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that all of that just, like as you love a child that has a disability or an adult or anybody, you start to see the world differently and you start to want to, fight for their rights and fight for things to be better and fight for people to understand like what it's like to be different and also still be cherished and loved and just as important and valuable as another child without a disability. And so you just can't help it. Like once you're around that a lot, like everyone starts to feel that way. And so,
Yeah.
it's just the people you spend the time with is kind of, who you become. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. And I was actually, this is totally not on subject, but I today was looking at Drew and it was Anna and I hanging out before we shot and Drew looks over to Anna to like seek a smile type
Hmm.
thing and Anna turns to her and smiles and Drew's elated and I was just thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know what made this thought happen, but that right now she's only surrounded by love.
Oh, yeah.
And as she gets older and life comes, um, unfortunately, the truth is that that changes. Like
Yeah.
you don't receive the constant validation and love that you do in your kid as you get older. And in particular, I was thinking about a friend of mine from high school that got bullied and ended up taking her own life, and that's an extreme example.
Mhm.
But the reality is that we at this age can shelter our kids so much and love them, but there's a whole world out there that is not nice
Yeah.
and not going to welcome them with open arms. And I
Yeah.
cannot imagine the experience of somebody that has a kid with a disability or a special need and thinking about not only my tiny problem that I'm talking about, but the
Yeah.
bigger problem of like the world physically doesn't fit some people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I've like got tears in my eyes just
I know,
thinking about it,
I know. It's
because it's like it's as a parent of a child with disability, like it is something I'm constantly thinking through and like I'm constantly worried about. And like the kids in her class already know that she's different, and the teachers are amazing and they just say like Lily needs more time to learn things or like, all that kind of stuff. And they love her just as she is. But I know that one day that will change as she gets older and people will realize that she's different. And I mean, to be honest, the way that she's different is like beautiful and amazing
yeah,
to me. Like
yeah,
she
so kind.
loves people so
Yeah,
much, and like I
yeah.
mean, we'll be sitting waiting at a light, and there's a person who's unhoused who's there and asking for money, and she just waves at them and smiles and says hi and like doesn't have that inhibition of like I should not talk to this person.
Yeah,
And to me, I'm like, we could all learn something because
definitely.
she says hi to like the janitor that's cleaning. Like she says hi to like people who I probably would just overlook, which is like terrible on my part, but she does not overlook anyone
Mm.
ever. like she sees every single person, and every like to her, every person is like she has the same excitement to see them and to talk to them, and she wants to like ask them all the questions,
Yeah.
and just like give them a big smile. And I've had so many people just say like she has like absolutely made my day. Like she loves talking to old people in Costco. But
That is incredible about Lily. In fact, it's funny, it just struck me that every time I've hung out with Lily, I felt like I'm an important person. Like,
yeah,
oh, maybe she just really loves me or really loves guys. I don't
yeah,
know. But
all people,
I think
yes.
it's like, wow, maybe I'm actually just a normal person to her. But she makes people feel special,
She does.
genuinely.
And she genuinely feels like everyone is special.
Yeah,
Like, I don't she's not just like, saying it to like get attention. Like she genuinely loves to talk to everyone. Like she loves to say hi to everyone,
yeah,
be around everyone. I'm like more of an introvert, and she is like
same.
the minute she wakes up, she says, "Where are we going?"
Yeah.
And she's just like ready to go and see everyone.
Yeah,
So, I mean, she has definitely pushed me outside of my comfort zone,
yeah,
in like a really beautiful way, and just I'm like, if we could just like pick up a prescription without talking to everyone in line, it'd be really great.
that's right.
But also, it's really beautiful that, we talk to everyone in line
Yeah.
and make everyone happy. So,
It really is a gift for an introvert to have a
yes.
kid
Yes.
because
Hmm.
I think I walk around every day when I go out with Drew with a little celebrity.
Oh
Everyone wants to talk to her, and I'm like, "Hello,
yeah.
you've entered into my introvert
I know. I'm
space."
like, I would like to sit here quietly by myself.
But here we are,
Yep. Yep.
and you want to talk to me, and you want to talk to my daughter, and you want to ask about where'd she get those eyes, and I say, "Clearly me." No, I'm just kidding. They did not come from me.
Yes.
Uh, so obviously talking about Lily, let's talk about foster care. What prompted you to start doing that?
Yeah.
You're about to potentially take a placement, which I guess I can say on the podcast.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me about the initial journey, and then let's talk about the journey to go back in having a kid because I'm currently in that season. But
Yeah.
tell me about what got you in.
Yeah. So that was, gosh, I feel like that was just a God thing because, it was in the middle of COVID, and there was a, church sermon on some like hot topics. And they said, hey, we have this like foster and adoptive class if anyone's interested. And that was being run by our two good friends.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, I've kind of always been interested since I was like little in the idea of adoption. And so I thought, like, I'm just going to take the class and see what it's about. And I had no idea it was really mostly about foster care.
Mm.
And so I think it was like a two-part class. And I was just blown away by what I learned about foster care. I had had no exposure or experience with foster care at all in my life. I mean, like I'd heard of it and that
Right.
was about it. And so I was just kind of, yeah, like blown away and like, wow, this is like really like affecting me. And I just felt like I was, yeah, thinking about it. And they had like an interest meeting, and it took me a lot of like convincing of myself to go to
Yeah.
the interest meeting, because also didn't know anybody who was doing that, and like didn't know anyone who was fostering, period. And so I went to the interest meeting, and I just like kept trying to delay doing anything for it. And I felt like God just being like, "This is what I have planned for you," kind of thing. And I was like, "No, no, like that feels hard.
Yeah.
That feels like for, other people who have more flexibility and, all that kind of stuff." And it just like it was like what you were talking about earlier, where like every sermon, like everything I saw, like every book I read, like everything was just like pushing me towards it. Um, and so eventually I just kind of had that thing where I was like, I cannot ignore the signs and like that feeling and like that prompting from God to like just do this. So I ended up doing everything to get licensed. And even then, I still was like, I will just make this last as long as I can,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, and they ended up needing like respite care for twin, I think 5-month olds.
Oof.
And I said, like, I can help someone take care of
The
them.
yeah.
And they're like, okay, you can take care of them. So
Oh,
I had them for a weekend. I had twin 5-month
oh
olds.
my gosh.
And it was like one of those things where I was like, it like broke my heart to like just know that I was taking care of these boys, and then they were going to go to another home, and it was like going to be their second foster home, and I was respite in between two foster homes. And I was like, I could do something here, like, I could make a difference, and, like, I'm sitting here wasting my time for my own comfort, like, I'm scared, I know it's gonna be hard, and why am I like, I have this big house by myself, like,
Mhm.
I need to use what I have been given for good, and so that pushed me along, um and so, yeah, I had my first little guy who was just an absolute joy. And then he went to go live with family and then opened up again for Lily. And so now it's been a couple of years and I just again felt that prompting, where things have settled. It's not easy by any means, but I feel like we're in a place where there's less of the, like, ups and downs, and things are really good for Lily and I, and we've been worked really hard to, like, get into a good place and my job and all that kind of stuff, and so I just feel really strongly that I want Lily to know what it's like to do things for the Lord, and to sacrifice your own comfort for others and to love others, and, I'm like, yeah, we could like go volunteer at a soup kitchen or something like that. But truly, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not going to affect her life. Like,
Mhm.
I did volunteer things growing up, and
Yep.
didn't like, I don't like remember any of them, but I think that if we were to have a child in our home and we hopefully help them reunify with their family and like love their family after and do everything that we can, like that's going to affect her life and her trajectory and that's what I want. So that's kind of how I ended up back here where I'm like I have the again the resources, the capability, the family, like a really supportive family who helps a lot. And so I just, was ready to just try it again.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I want to tell you that I think you are incredibly brave doing this, especially as an individual. I know from my story with foster care is that I didn't want to do it. Actually, Caitlin and Anna dragged Inyaki and I to an info session.
I totally believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Inyaki and I, after the info session, texting each other probably like 11 p.m. at night, like, no way we're doing
Yeah.
this. Like,
Uh-huh.
we're out.
We're out.
He and I were both like, we're never doing this.
That's so
And
funny.
I pushed my sweet wife, just like really knew that we were supposed to be foster parents. And
Yeah.
I pushed back on it for probably physically an entire year
Mhm.
of not doing classes when I was
Mhm.
supposed to do class, just like
All the
totally, yeah.
Mhm.
I was a bad husband.
No.
She would sign me up and I'd be like, I'm not doing
No, I mean, that's what I
it.
did too.
Yeah,
It was only me, so I
yeah,
could just, like, keep delaying it.
totally. Or not turn in items or
Yeah.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just not happening.
Yep.
And um, I similarly had a moment where I was driving in my neighborhood. I live on the east side, and I saw this homeless guy and or unhomed guy. And I said to myself, like, man, he should just really pick himself up by his bootstraps and get himself out of the situation. And I felt so convicted because I don't know how much you know of my story, but um, I was I was just in some really dark places in my life as
Yeah.
a young man and totally had the opportunity to become that person.
Yeah.
And like for me to lack empathy for the position that I've been spared from, it's
Right.
ridiculous, you know? And so it broke my heart to the point that I was like, I have to do this. Like,
Yeah.
God convicted me to become a foster parent. And
Yeah.
then I was all on board after that. And then funny enough, like we didn't take placement. Like we got certified and we did some respite. Like we had in for the first, I don't know if she's been adopted or not.
She's not.
We had a
Not yet.
baby. We had a baby of a friend of ours for a respite period. And I resisted. And then eventually we got our one of the kids in a respite situation. We had him for a month. And then I fell in love with him and fell in love with the whole foster care thing and thought, all right, like I need to do this. And so we
Yep.
did. We took that kid on and did that whole journey. And what's really interesting that you're talking about that I want to talk about as well is that now, we have our biological daughter, Drew. We don't have a foster placement.
Yep.
And I have been so scared to shake up her world because I'm like, oh, well, it's not easy.
No.
You
No,
know,
it is not.
it's
It
not
is not.
it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
It's not just like as easy as just saying yes. It's like there's a huge commitment emotionally,
Mhm,
especially if a kid leaves,
mhm,
you go through that. Um, and so I guess I want to ask a little bit more about, you said that you want to show Lily how to sacrifice and show Lily how to live a servant hearted life.
mhm.
Tell me about what made you brave enough to do that. Maybe I just want to know personally so that I
Yeah.
can do it.
I feel like everything in foster care for me has been literally like hearing the Lord's voice
Mm,
telling me to like keep moving forward.
yeah.
Truly, because I'm not a risk taker
Mm,
like at all. That's not my personality. Like I like to like plan ahead and save and all that
yeah.
kind of stuff. And there's like literally no world you could jump into as a like play it safe person that is as crazy as foster care.
Yeah.
And so because it's like so different than who I am fundamentally, I feel like it's the Lord's prompting. And so I think it just took me a long time to get to the point where I was like, okay, let me just listen to what the Lord is telling me. And it's the same thing with opening again. Like that each day you just get what you need. And like, I have met so many people who have helped me just like completely out of nowhere, like people who I didn't know at all, like bringing me meals once a week for, or once a month for like a year, an entire year for my church, or volunteering to drive her to therapy for free, or coming to babysit for free. And I just like now have seen how beautiful that is and how it all works. So I'm like, it will be fine. But I think when I think about like you and I like having that struggle, I just think like I would be such a different person if I had not joined like been in the foster care world,
Yeah.
and I would never have wanted to give that up and or like not be that person.
As an update, and I think we talked about this before I started recording, Anna and I have definitely decided that we are going to be taking on another kid
Yeah.
in October.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an interesting thing because I'm sitting at the precipice of that and
Mhm.
thinking, oh my gosh, I know what God has told me.
Mhm.
And I've told people, and I'm trying to hold myself
I
accountable
know.
by telling
Yeah,
people, but I
absolutely.
still don't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like and it's different than when you don't have a kid
Right.
and you're starting it versus when you do have a permanent kid and then
Yeah.
you're starting it, because you do think about the kid. It is harder. You already have things you're juggling, but I'm like, I could not be that person who's like, oh, well, when it is just a little bit more inconvenient, you don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's number
Yeah.
1, it's never convenient.
Yeah.
But number 2, like, we have to live what we're saying. If we want other people to see the example of us too and say, like, yeah, you can have permanent kids, biological kids, and still do this and it still be a good thing for your family,
Yeah.
hard, but
Hard.
good in the kingdom sense.
Seriously. When it comes to the bravery that you've had with foster care and doing your job and everything, who are some of like the matriarchs and women in your life that have inspired you or showed you that you can do this?
Yeah.
And like, I would love to hear about how you became the woman you are, like who made you,
Yeah.
you know?
I feel like I'm in a family of very strong women,
Mm,
and that's just like on both sides. My mom, my aunts, my sisters, my cousins, like everybody, my grandma. Um, I feel like if I could talk about any of them, like they are all amazing to me and did amazing things. And I feel like I grew up always just knowing that I could do anything that I set my mind to. And I think that's a lot of my parents and the way that they raised us. Having strong like women in my family and just like, it's like different women who are strong in different ways, like my grandma is like the matriarch of our whole family, and she's like a devout Catholic and goes to church all the time and is like so faithful and so loving and has just cared for her family her entire life. And I'm like, that is like such a strong woman. And then there's like my mom who went to college in like a place she did not know at all, like literally didn't even know how to open a bank account, like just went to Austin, UT Austin, went to school, got a degree, became a teacher, later with 3 kids, went back and got her master's degree, and then, like all this stuff are just like amazing to me, and the things she went through as a child to like learn English and to do all of that kind of stuff. And, my sisters who are both amazing in different ways. So I feel like there's just so many different examples of really strong women in my life. And also I have to, having a dad who has like built up strong women too, like he's always helped push us to like be the best that we can be and have no limits on ourselves. So
Yeah.
I mean it's not just one, but it's been like I have so many amazing women around.
That's awesome. I was
Yeah.
gonna actually ask about your dad
Yeah.
because I'm a dad.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
And I was curious if there's anything that your dad did that made you feel like you believed in yourself or special, maybe something I could steal from him as a girl dad to learn from.
Well, my dad had all girls. So, yeah, he
Wow.
had 3 girls and then so he was just surrounded by women all the time.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like I don't know, I guess I feel like he just never made us feel like there were any limits to what we could do ever. And I mean, they definitely pushed us to be successful like academically and stuff like that. But I mean, truly, I think part of it is just that he's always been like a cheerleader for what I wanted to do and what I like to do, Like he's never I mean, I definitely got my cautious side from him. He's definitely very cautious.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, like, he just kinda comes along for the ride, and, when I was like, "I'm gonna buy this house," my dad was like, "You sure?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, "Do you really wanna do that?" But he just, like, supports you, immediately and just, like, goes with you, and even when I was like, "I wanna do foster care," I think my parents were just like, "All right, that's what we're doing now," like, my dad was, like, immediately like, well, we can help families, we can help them if they need to, like, get their house in order and all this kinda stuff, and so he's definitely, like, a very giving person just for the world too, um, so it's always been just, like, follow your dreams and make sure you help someone and take care of others.
That's
And
awesome.
so, I mean, I think you can give a lot of that to Drew, which is part
So
of it is showing the foster care part of
yeah.
it is just, like, not letting your own things that you want for her to get in the way of, like, letting her pursue her dreams and figuring out what she wants to do and make mistakes.
If Drew and Lily were listening to this in, let's just say, 16 or 20 years, who knows where they'll be.
Yeah.
What do you want them to take away from your story, things we've been talking about, this episode of the podcast? What do you hope they think and learn?
What do I want them to learn? I just one thing that I wish for my life is that I had not been afraid to take more risks and make more mistakes. And so I hope that as a mom that I can encourage Lily to follow her dreams, to take more risks, to be okay with failing. Um, but more so I want them to be okay going down a path that maybe is less conventional. Obviously single parenting is not super conventional. I mean it can be, but like choosing to do that. And so foster care, changing my career, all of that kind of stuff. I just like I want her to know, I want them to know that you will be changing forever, and it's okay that things might be different than what you thought. It's okay that, your first season, you're not super great at your job, or that's not like something you care about, or that maybe you're like having a tough time as a parent, or, whatever it is. I just hope that they can see that every season's temporary and things will change and, that they will kind of be okay with that.
Yeah, that's actually beautiful and so true. I mean, I genuinely feel like that in my life where I'm so different than I was 2 years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
I'm so, so different than I was 10 years ago. And I have always been hard on myself at every single step and been
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm not enough. But it's
Right.
like, it's time and you grow and you'll
Yeah.
get better and you'll get worse. And
Yeah.
like
Absolutely.
honestly, it's
Absolutely.
all part of it,
Yes.
honestly. Um, what do you think that parents miss when it comes to raising kids with disabilities? What do you think other parents are missing about your situation? And maybe what do you want them to have compassion for?
Um, I think I wish that as a parent of a child with a disability that everyone understood how hard that kids with disabilities work to just exist
Mm,
like in the world. Like, I mean, Lily's done hundreds and hundreds of hours of therapy. And, people like even like what you were saying, like I had no idea she had a disability.
Seriously, no clue.
But like people will say that and I'm like, that is because of thousands of hours of work, like both at home, both in therapy,
Yeah.
all the doctors, like every specialist, like getting everything perfectly lined up and all of that. And so, just it takes a lot for her to function in the world. And just I wish that everyone could know that about kids with disabilities so that you have more compassion for when they do have the meltdown, when they are struggling in school, when they don't stop moving, all that kind of stuff. Like just there's so many things that are going through their brains at all time. Um, but I also, would love I wish that everyone could fight for people with disabilities like I do now as a parent and like I will, and that they could feel that compassion, because there's like nothing like feeling like your child's being held back because of the way that the world works
Yeah.
and like having to fight for that. And so I wish that everyone could feel the same way that I do now. And it's just you can't understand it until you're in it. And that's totally fine because I was the same way before I was in this world. But I just hope that everyone can be kind, to both my daughter and everyone else that has a disability, and just, understand how hard she's worked to get to where she is.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that you didn't know what Williams syndrome was when
Mhm.
you got Lily. Um, what would you say to a parent that found out that their kid was going to have Williams syndrome or any disability and maybe they're apprehensive or scared, which I'm sure you might have been.
Yeah.
But what would you say to them now?
I would say that it's going to be hard. And the first year is definitely hard. It's like, it is the hardest thing I ever have done for sure. But there's so much beauty and joy and hardship, and, like, it will stretch you in ways that you did not know that you could be stretched. It will, like, grow your compassion in ways that, like, you did not even realize. And it's also, like, beautiful and so amazing to see the world through a person with Lamb syndrome's eyes. It's such a gift, and I, like, cannot imagine my life without her and how she sees the world and how, just learning a new way to see the world. And so it's hard, but it is totally worth it and amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super sweet. What would the younger version of you, maybe a child or a teenager, think of who you are today? Could you have ever imagined the life you're living?
I think my younger self would be shocked.
Yeah, yeah,
Very shocked because like I said, I've always been like a planner and a like to control things kind of person. So yeah, I mean I think in a good way, like shocked, and happy that this is kind of how things have turned out. And I mean, I couldn't have planned my life to turn out this way, and I'm so grateful and thankful that it has. I didn't know when I was going to get into foster care that it would like gain me a bunch of really good friends
that's right.
too on
Yeah,
top of it, like
yeah,
I got into it for the child welfare part, and then it's like I also found all like my really great friends from it too. So yeah, I mean there's nothing I would change, and I think that my younger self would see that and be happy about that.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What does the word ladylike mean to you? I mean, positive or negative connotation?
I was sitting there thinking about it, and to me, it was like my grandma going to finishing school,
That's right.
like
Yeah,
sitting there, like crossing your legs at the
that's
ankles, and like what to use, like what spoon to use, and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's what I would think about when I think of that. Like I wouldn't say that I'm like the epitome of ladylike,
yeah, yeah,
just because my life's kind of shambly a lot of
yeah.
times now that my with my child and all that kind of stuff. But I do feel like having listened to the episodes and everything, like it's changing a little bit because yeah, maybe the original definition was, this like perfect lady who followed all the rules and all that kind of stuff. But now it's like, what even is that? Like what is the ultimate definition of like one lady that has it all together? So I think you're kind of helping change that a little bit.
That's the hope. And I think most everyone that a lot of people have said that being ladylike in today's world is some combination of grace, like gentleness, as
Mhm.
well as strength. Um, that those two things kind of make up what it means to be a modern woman, and I
Mhm.
don't know, I'm a guy, but
Yeah.
do you feel like that resonates, or do you feel like you would say something different as far as what
Yeah.
does it mean to be the incredible woman you are today in today's world?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, grace and grit is probably
Yeah.
a good word to put in there. Because I mean, it's everything's constantly changing, right? And my world constantly changes based off of how my daughter's world is changing and what she needs in every season.
Mhm.
So I mean, honestly, I think like being a strong woman is about being adaptable
Yeah.
more than anything. And just like continuing to like persevere and find how you can continue to be the woman that you are in the face of things that are changing. And so maybe something like that.
Yeah. Like for you to have a moment to be able to shout out any women that inspire you today, women that you think are incredibly ladylike in the modern definition. Um, Talk about maybe some of them and some of the things they're doing and why you love them so that they can listen to this and hear what you think about them. It's an open mic for you. And then after that, we'll do a quick fire section with some fun questions.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I mean, definitely, I don't know how if you would describe this as ladylike, but I mean, I could not have gotten through Lily's infancy without my mom.
Mm,
Like she was there spending the night with me so I could sleep and, spending 4 hours rocking my screaming child. And they are like two peas in a pod now, my mom and Lily. And I don't know how they're not biologically related because they are the same person.
that's
But
awesome.
so I mean, I feel like she overcame a lot and has been an amazing presence in my life. So I couldn't, have done any of this without her. And even when I said, like, I'm going to open for placement again, my mom was like, all right, I'm ready to help. So that's amazing. I mean, I feel like I wouldn't be in my journey if it weren't for Katie and Hallie and just showing what it's like to foster well and to parent well and be able to just like make it work. I mean, they have taught me so much about being a medical mom, and
Yeah.
a disability mom and how to advocate and fight for your child. So I mean, I can't imagine what this life would be like if I were doing it in isolation, like so many parents are.
Yeah.
And I just don't think I could, like truly without all of the not just them, but all the other women that like the Pinterest moms
Shout out
who help
Pinterest moms. That's it.
help support through all of the craziness. And just like make me feel like the way I'm doing is okay. And, they will keep supporting me as much as I need.
Mm, that's awesome. Shout out to the Pinterest moms. I think you guys are all getting shout outs every single episode. So, good for them. I even got a shout out for being lady. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, quick fire questions. What brings you more joy, baking or walking Town Lake?
Definitely walking Town Lake
Ooh, why does it give you more joy?
because I don't have to clean afterwards.
That's that
No,
is
I
a
mean,
great
it's
answer.
just, something about the like nature and just like getting to like decompress for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and all the hot guys running around as
You know,
shirtless men.
I'm just trying to survive
That's
at some point,
it.
in this weather.
Seriously, feel you.
Yeah.
What's your favorite audiobook you've listened to recently?
Oh, there's a book called The Measure.
The Measure.
Yeah.
What's it about?
It's basically like it's some kind of sci-fi-ish, but it's like everyone gets a box on their front doorstep one day and it has a string,
Oh,
and the string is the length of their life that they have left.
oh my
And
gosh.
so once they figure out what the length means, like to the day, then people are changing the way that they live their lives based on how much of the string they have left. And like all these things, like people who don't ever open their box because they don't want to know.
Yeah.
And so just the stories of people and how their life is different, knowing how long they have left to
How
live.
would you live if you had the measure?
I would probably take a lot more
Would
risks.
you take it? Would you look at it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Immediately?
Oh,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
100%. Because I like to plan,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
would just
I
be
gotta think
like,
about everything.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, do I have a week or do I have like 20 years?"
Yeah. 20 years.
To eat a lot of pasta if
Yeah.
I, knew I had a very short period of
That's
time
right.
left.
Would it change based on what they did?
No, it did not change.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there were twists and turns for how it happened,
Yeah.
but yeah, it did not change.
Interesting. I would become obese and I'm just kidding. What's your go-to comfort meal to cook for yourself?
100% pasta. Oh,
Pasta.
yeah.
Special kind or just
No, I mean, gluten-free for me,
that's
but
right, right.
I mean, I love spaghetti, like, just plain old spaghetti with, like, shrimp.
Mm,
It is just that's my comfort meal, like, if I'm sick, if I'm sad, just it's
spaghetti and
pasta.
shrimp.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
What's a place that you would love to travel with your family, including Lily, someday?
Oh,
Where would Lily like to go? Anywhere,
anywhere,
anywhere.
literally
Yeah,
anywhere,
yeah.
yeah. I have been to Italy, and I would love to go back to
The
Italy.
pasta.
Yes, the
Yeah,
pasta, just the culture, the walking, the, like, sights, everything.
yeah.
So, I would love to go back there one day, like, I would choose going back there and then, like, going somewhere new.
Wow.
But I feel like I traveled a lot before I became a mom, so there's no place where I'm like, "I absolutely have to get there before I die."
Well, that's good. Knock
Yeah,
them all out early and all of
yeah,
that. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on here. Obviously, it was emotional for both of us,
yeah.
and seriously, incredible to hear about your background, what you're doing, about Lily and her story, about all of that. Any last words for the people to hear from you? I mean, maybe go out and be a foster parent. What would you say?
Or support a foster parent.
That's right. Support a foster
You don't
family.
have to be a foster parent, but you could bring meals, you
That's
could
right.
babysit. I've, like, tried to push so many people to get babysitter certified.
Respite. Yeah.
Yeah, respite certified just to, like, help support because, we can only use certain babysitters, and so, that are certified, and so that limits you and limits the help you can get, so help however you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you guys again for listening. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at ladylike_pod, on YouTube at ladylike the girl dad podcast. And that's it. Thanks.
Thanks.
Hey, y'all. I want to introduce you to a new segment of the show. It's going to be called Dad Reflection. This podcast is meant for girl dads, girls, and the women they're becoming. And so I really wanted to provide a reflection section where I talk about what I learned about being ladylike and how I grew during this episode. So this is that. One thing that struck me in my conversation with Ashley was the way that she described Lily. This little girl who waves at everyone she meets, who notices janitors, who smiles at the person at the stoplight. She sees people the world often overlooks. As a dad, that challenged me. I'm an introvert. I like keeping my head down and staying in my own lane. But Drew's already pulling me into conversations with strangers at the grocery store and at the park. And when Ashley talked about Lily's unfiltered kindness, it made me think maybe what feels inconvenient to me is actually the most important thing Drew can learn. Ashley also reminded me that bravery does not always look like jumping out of airplanes or chasing big dreams. Sometimes bravery looks like saying yes when you don't really feel ready. Yes to foster care, yes to parenting a child with special needs, and yes to the hard thing that changes your whole world, including doing a podcast with your daughter. And as much as I want to shield Drew from pain, maybe the better gift is to model that kind of yes, the courage to step into the unknown, trusting God will give you whatever you need today.